A warm welcome to day two of the Global Technology Summit. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all those who have joined us from different parts of the world. I'm Anu Singh, Deputy Director at Carnegie India. Before we begin our discussions for the day, I'd like to share a few housekeeping notes. For those of you who have logged in through our customized platform, we encourage you to explore the various interactive features that the platform offers. You can connect with other participants via the networking lounge. The Resource Center has a lot of downloadable material on Carnegie India's research across technology, political economy, and security studies. The help desk is, of course, always available for any queries that you may have. And finally, do spend a little time in filling up our feedback form. We also encourage you to use social media to comment and contribute to our conversation online. Please stay connected to social media via hashtag Global Tech Summit. In case you're not able to watch any of our sessions live, please watch the discussions online on our website, carnegieindia.org, or Carnegie India's Facebook page, or Carnegie India's YouTube channel. In fact, you will find all our previous sessions on our YouTube channel, so do access them from there. Today, on day two of the summit, the discussions will focus on how data is linking the world and perhaps even fragmenting it in certain ways. We will begin with a very special panel on the governance of technology, followed by an address by Margaret Schrambach, Minister for Digital and Economic Affairs, Republic of Austria. After that, there is a conversation on the world we live in. Later in the day, there will be a panel on India's emerging data architecture. This will be followed by another panel to discuss localization and internationalization of data, particularly with reference to India. We will end the day with a conversation on regulating digital markets in India.
This is the one platform, the one summit that seriously discusses the policy dimensions around technology.
A program like this on data and technology brings to the fore that India has to move ahead on the data privacy issue.
You must keep in mind that it not only has an impact on those who are attending, but those who are attending take these back and impact on policy in different ways.
I'm confident that this is going to be yet another success in the entire series.
Today we can create a framework which protects privacy in a digital world.
E-government itself is about transformation. If you have not made any difference to the common man or to a business, it's no good.
Today, the paradigm is connectivity defines the destiny.
If our aspiration is to be a leading power one day, we have to be a leading power in also harnessing data.
I now have the privilege of introducing our first panel of the day on the governance of technology. Most governments around the world haven't been able to develop norms or standards to govern emerging technologies domestically. Can countries work together to develop such norms? To discuss this and related issues, we have in conversation Malcolm Johnson, Deputy Secretary General, International Telecommunication Union, and Suyash Rai, Fellow Carnegie India.
Hello and welcome. I'm Suyash Rai from Carnegie India. As many of you may know, the International Telecommunications Union has played a central role in achieving the kind of interoperability and interconnectivity in telecommunications that many of us now take for granted. From harmonization of spectrum use to the development of common standards, ITU has been a catalyst in the triumph of global connectivity that we have seen in the last few decades. So we thought that a perspective from ITU is very important to understand where we are headed in the world of telecommunications. I'm joined by Mr. Malcolm Johnson from the ITU. Mr. Johnson, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Suyash. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Thank you. So, Mr. Johnson, this year's Global Technology Summit is focused on the theme of geopolitics of technology. And today's sub-theme is linking the world, a topic that ITU knows a thing or two about. May I now invite you to make some opening remarks on what you see as the most important issues in the governance of telecommunications in our time, especially from the point of view of linking the world. And then I will follow up with a few questions after your opening remarks.
Okay, thank you. Well, thanks for your kind introduction to me and to ITU. I joined ITU in 2007, and I consider it a privilege to have worked for an organization which, as you say, has contributed so much to social and economic development over so many decades. Information and communication technology, or ICTs as we call it, has transformed and improved people's lives around the world, and no more so than in India. And of course, the experience of this year, where we've lived through the COVID-19 pandemic, has really shown the importance of ICTs as never before, which of course has made ITU's work more important than ever before. As you can see, like most people, I'm now working from home. I'm up in the Mont Blanc Massif out of Geneva, but have full connectivity and have been here almost the entire time since the start of lockdown at the end of March. Our work has continued quite effectively and efficiently. In fact, in some ways, been more efficient. You know, we have been able to contribute to conferences such as this without having to leave home, no cost, no carbon footprint. And it's given us a chance to really talk to more people about what India and ITU have in common. I've participated in a few events organized in India to that effect. And of course, it's very good to see just how much the Indian government has done to bring the benefits of the technology to the people there, especially in the rural and remote communities, which are most often neglected, even in developed countries. And yet they are the ones that can most benefit from health and education and financial inclusion. And this has been particularly important, of course, during the pandemic. So ICTs are going to be a key part in building back a better, safer, more connected and sustainable world after this pandemic hopefully is over next year, or at the earliest, hopefully. It's a considerable challenge, but one that ITU is the UN's specialized agency for ICTs, is addressing and has been for many years. We have a diverse membership of 193 governments, but uniquely over 900 private sector companies, universities, and other regional international organizations. So we're particularly looking forward to the opening of ITU's new area office for South Asia in Delhi next year. I believe this is going to further improve ITU's already close collaboration with the Indian government and ITU's membership in India. And I hope that it'll result in the membership growing substantially, especially in our SME and academia categories. So we look forward to a very exciting year next year.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. My first question to you is picking up on a theme that you already touched upon briefly, but taking it forward from there is this question of inclusion and connectivity. As you rightly mentioned, we in India and also other parts of the world have achieved huge improvements in connectivity over the last 20 years or so. We have been able to get internet and specifically and also connectivity through mobile telephony to rural areas to a significant extent. But this rapid advance has led, in my view, to a kind of a paradoxical situation where many more people are connected. And therefore, it is now taken for granted that everybody is connected. So what we saw in the pandemic is that many school systems immediately or very soon moved classes online, which obviously helped a lot for kids who were connected. But people who were not connected, kids who were in remote areas, they were at a disadvantage. So now, very quickly, in less than a generation, we have moved from internet being a luxury to internet being a necessity. So, which basically makes it all the more important to take the internet and connectivity to the other 50% of the population that is not yet connected. And I'm referring here to the data that ITU recently released on connectivity in the world, and which showed that about half of the world is connected. And especially there are certain kind of disparities, especially in rural areas, and all connectivity is low. So what are the main barriers in your view that need to be overcome, especially from the point of view of global governance of telecom, from ITU's perspective, so that the internet can be quickly, as soon as possible, taken universal in terms of availability and access, in terms of improving the kind of content, and so on and so forth? What are the problems that need to be solved?
Yes, well, this is a critical issue that needs to be addressed. As you said, almost half the world's population is still not connected to the internet, and most of these are people living in the rural and remote communities. So that's an issue that is top of our agenda, and I personally feel very committed to, because I come myself from a small village in the middle of Wales, so I always have pushing this as one of our main challenges. So I was very impressed with some of the innovations that I saw in India when I was at the India Telecom event last year, and I also visited CDOT. See a lot of innovations being developed in India, which really address this issue of bringing connectivity to the people in the rural areas. And this is something that, of course, has to be done not just in India, but in many developing countries around the world. So these innovations that are going on in India have a tremendous potential from a business point of view, but also, to help bring connectivity to these people around the world in the rural areas. And this is why it's very important that we have more of these entrepreneurs, SMEs in India participating in ITU's work, because it's a benefit not just to ITU in bringing the technology to the people, but also it will help these companies with their business, because they get their technology into an international standard. They can enter into a worldwide market. And even if they have patented technology, they can still get that into an international ITU standard, providing they commit to licensing it on reasonable and non-discriminatory terms. So there are many companies that have patented technology in ITU standards that make a lot of money just from licensing the IPR. So the tremendous opportunity, I believe, for Indian industry to become more involved in ITU and enter into this worldwide market and addressing this particular issue of bringing the people in the rural areas online. And it shows it can be done because just last month, ITU achieved the global validation of 3 radio interfaces for the future 5th generation mobile networks. And one of these technologies, 5GI, is one that was submitted by the Telecoms Standards Development Society of India, TSDSI. So this is a significant milestone, I believe, for Indian global telecoms industry. I'd like to congratulate India for this. It's a big contribution because that technology will also help to bring 5G to the rural areas. So there's a tremendous opportunity, and we really look forward to having more active participation from India in ITU's work in the future to address this particular issue and other issues.
Yeah. So that's a very important point, that the question of inclusion and innovation are linked, and taking innovation globally will require standardization, will require working as economies of scale so that we can take innovations to more and more people, and that will itself substantially improve connectivity and take it to people who currently don't have it. Now, my next question is about the way technological change is happening now. So we are seeing massive acceleration and development of new technologies, especially technologies as AI, use of big data, use of IoTs and all. So what role do you think that ITU can play in shaping the development of these technologies? And how can we ensure that the benefits of these technologies are widely distributed and more fairly shared, so if you look at 10 years from now, it is not that these technologies have widened the gap between the developed and developing countries, but actually helped narrow them. So many times, many technological revolutions that have happened till now have helped widen the gap, while some, for example, the third industrial revolution, helped the East Asian economies, catch up very quickly. How can we ensure that the latest revolutions are such that more countries can catch up and achieve greater prosperity and narrow the gap?
Yes, of course. Well, this is one of the objectives of ITU as a UN agency. We have 193 member states, so we are particularly keen to ensure that all our member states benefit from this technology, and especially the developing countries, which have the most to gain. So you mentioned AI. Clearly, AI has got tremendous promise in many areas. This is why we in ITU started the annual AI for Good Global Summit, which brings together all the various stakeholders involved in AI, right through from governments to entrepreneurs and the researchers, to look at how we can use the technology for good. There's a lot of negativity about AI, especially when it comes to job losses, etc. But we want to focus on the benefits of AI, and these are great, as we've seen from the response to the COVID-19, for example. And in fact, the health area was one of those that was first identified in these annual summits as being an area that we should focus on in particular, because that's going to bring tremendous benefits to people all over the world. So ITU and the World Health Organization joined forces to launch a focus group on artificial intelligence for health. This focus group is open to any stakeholder with an interest. Don't have to be an ITU member, don't have to be a WHO member. It's open to researchers, engineers, practitioners, entrepreneurs, policymakers, to develop the standards which we hope will result in lives being saved. So this standards development is a fundamental pillar of ITU's mission and working closely with the various other UN agencies that we have close connection with, but WHO is one that we're particularly proud of because we've already developed standards in this area that's benefiting people. We developed a standard to protect young people's hearing from listening to the music on their headsets too loud, for example. So there's tremendous range of opportunity for bringing the benefits of this technology to everyone. And AI in particular has got so many of these potentials, which we'd like to see the innovators in India coming and working with us on.
Thank you. So one final question about ITU itself. How do you see over the next 10 years ITU itself changing? What is your, because technology is changing so rapidly that to catch up, for the governance of technology to catch up, maybe the technology of regulation itself might need to change. So is a body like ITU going to change over the last 10 years? In what ways might it change? Some thoughts on that?
Yes, well, ITU has been changing throughout its time, back from 1865. So you can imagine tremendous changes that have taken place over that time. And the reason why it's still such an important organization is that it always has changed with the times. And now, of course, the times are changing faster than ever before. So traditionally, of course, our membership, besides the governments, has been the private sector vendors and operators in the telecom sector. But now we're seeing it becoming much broader because so many other industry sectors are reliant on the technology and want to be involved in the development of that technology. So our membership is becoming much more diverse as a result. And a good example is the automotive industry. We're doing a lot of work on autonomous vehicles, for example. So we have car makers such as the Volkswagen Group, Hyundai, and various automotive industry players such as Bosch, BlackBerry, Tata Communications, Mitsubishi, and China's Telematics Industry Applications Alliance. All have joined ITU just in the recent past. And this ensures that we do develop the standards which these various industry sectors need. It's only if they are participating can we ensure that our standards meet their requirements. And not just the standards, of course, but the spectrum that we allocate in our World Radio Communication Conferences. We maintain the only international treaty on the use of the radio spectrum and satellite orbits. We need to shift spectrum, from sectors which are requiring less and less spectrum to those which require more and more spectrum. It's used efficiently and effectively. So there's been a great shift over the last few years in the use of spectrum, of course, to the mobile sector. And no spectrum is left unused. So that's not an easy thing to manage. But we have these world conferences every 3 or 4 years. They're tremendously successful because at the end of the conference, all member states sign the final acts. I don't think there's any other UN conference where you see that happening. So there's a tremendous willingness from the community to work together, to bring this technology to benefit everyone everywhere. And of course, they are vital if we're going to achieve the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Only through them will that be possible. And of course, on the regulatory landscape, of course, we also have to work together with many different players compared to what was necessary in the past to make sure that the regulatory framework is also there to ensure interoperability, security, quality of service. And we work with so many different organizations, it's difficult to mention them all, but the financial sector is a good example. We work together with the World Bank Group, the Committee on Payments and Market Infrastructure. We have the support of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to make sure that even there, that when people use their mobile phones, for example, for banking, it's secure, it's safe, and they can move from one operator to another so that it's interoperable. So I'm very excited about the future. There's something new happening almost every week. But it's very good to see that there is this collaboration, which is so important today, more than ever before, that we have good collaboration between all the various players. We all bring our own specific competencies to the table, avoid duplication of effort, and pool our resources for the common good. And we're looking forward to continuing that with all our friends and members in India. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. This is the 5th edition of the Global Technology Summit. And if the pandemic had happened 10 years ago, we would have had to cancel the summit. But we can do the whole summit online, and ITU has a lot to do with that. So thank you, and thank you, ITU, for that. And thank you for joining us for this conversation. Have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Malcolm and Suyash. We now have a special address on India and Austria, Imperatives for a Digital Future by Margaret Schrambach, Minister for Digital and Economic Affairs, Republic of Austria. Madam Minister.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, I'm happy to join the Global Technology Summit for Austria and India, talking about imperatives for a common digital future. Digitization is important for all our lives around the world, and it has changed all our lives. This is true both for India and Austria. India has made impressive progress in this digital industry and is leading in certain areas. So has Austria. We are number 3 in Europe in digital administration. So we also have a lot of investments and a lot of progress to show here. It is important to exchange best practices, to work together and to find solutions for the new problems of this world. I'm convinced that digital transformation will help us to solve the big issues, the big challenges that mankind has, be it nutrition, be it education, health, or smart factoring. It is important that we give chances to the next generation to solve these problems, and therefore we need to lay the cornerstones today. We need to invest in digital transformation in 3 areas. First, in the area of public administration. It needs to be a digital state that is supporting their citizens. Second, it is important to invest in digital education for all people living in these countries. It is important that digital skills and digital knowledge are the basis for wealth and are the basis for good skills for working in the future. And third, it is about closing a digital gap. There are digital gaps in our societies, and it's our responsibility to overcome these digital gaps. Digital transformation is key for all of us, and it's key for the future of the next generations. Let's use this forum to work together, to exchange best practices, to find new solutions for these big issues that we have together. Let's work shoulder on shoulder. Let's work for the next digital generations.
Thank you, Madam Minister, for that wonderful address. We will now take a 10-minute break before our next panel. And may I take this opportunity to remind you that if you have missed any of our previous sessions and would like to watch them, please do go to the Carnegie India YouTube channel. All previous sessions will be available there for you to watch. So we will see you back here at 6:20 in 10 minutes. Thank you.